Diane Magers, currently with AT&T, and I work in the customer experience team. We helicopter up over the organization and help the different business units work together around the customer journey.
So on a basic level, what's the difference between an organization that's customer-centric and name-only versus one that has customer experience top of mind and it's embedded within its culture?
You can usually identify a customer experience or centric culture by the way people talk about the customer. So oftentimes in organizations that aren't very customer centric, they'll be talking about measures and metrics that absolutely have nothing to do with what the customer is really experiencing. They'll talk about processes and function and features, but they won't be talking about what's on the other end, what needs and desires and wants are they serving for the customer. In opposition to that, customer-centric organizations, literally in the room, every meeting you're in, every stand-up meeting, the way they operate is all around what are we doing to benefit the customer's lives? How are we meeting those needs? How can we design ourselves better around those needs? And really listening to the feedback, right? Lots of companies gather, say they're customer-centric because we do a survey or we listen to feedback. But it's actually doing something about that and orchestrating around that as an organization that helps deliver on that great experience. So it's often, you can just hear it in the way people talk and the way they open-mindedly think about what they're doing and why they're doing it.
So over your experience in the industry, what's changed throughout the decades? How has technology advanced your ability to be more customer-centric? All of these things. What's inhibited because of technology? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I always see technology as kind of an enabler. So when we think about how long customer experience has been around, it tends to be the new buzzword today. And I think that's because lots of companies realize that products and services are very commoditized these days. You do something and your competitors are right behind you. And the only way to really differentiate is that customer experience. So while a lot of us who have done it a long time, it kind of became very natural for us, other organizations want to learn how to do that. So I think just the focus and the competencies and the skill sets and the organizational structure it takes to really be customer-centric are where we've seen a lot of great progress. And obviously at this event, it's really the key theme of what people want to talk about. You know, how do I get that interaction to be its best? How do I really design around the customer? So I think it's just that focus of the customer. We used to be a little bit of an afterthought, which is kind of crazy because they're why we're in business and they're our number one asset. But so the focus has really changed over time. Technology has both, I think, been a disruptor and an enabler for us. So technology has brought on a lot of different channels. Social media from a technology standpoint has been there, but it's also helped us to really understand customer behavior. So we see a lot more information and data about the customers and how they're behaving. It allows us to take that voice of what they're telling to us and how they're talking to us, either through behavior or feedback, mold it and really utilize it, and then also measure and gain metrics and business value around it.
Would you provide an example of how a toxic culture poisoned a contact center?
Yes, I think I can recall a couple internationally, but it can happen here as well, where they were so focused on the numbers and the measures and metrics that the customer experience was so far down the path that even the employees felt like they were just a quote-unquote number, that they were just in kind of doing call it on the gerbil wheel, coming in, doing their job, but there really wasn't an engagement or a purpose. So that culture can permeate not only people coming in new to the organization, but it can also really drag down that whole ability to provide a great experience and really have conversations with the customer and connect with them emotionally. And so changing that is not, I say it's difficult, but there are definitely things you can do to, one, engage the employees. They have great ideas. They're the ones who really know what's causing the pain points. They are a wealth of information. So engaging them to kind of turn that culture around just brings that energy back. We've run innovation sessions at care centers with the agents, and they are so full of energy when they're done. They really see that they're being listened to. It just wants to help them engage even more, and they deliver a better work for the company, but they also deliver a better experience. So teaching those skill sets, getting them engaged, letting them have impact and input into what's happening, because they're so valuable and they know a lot about what's going on with that experience. So that's one way we've seen a kind of toxic culture where nobody's involved and the customer is thought of as kind of an afterthought, to the customer's the number one thing people talk about, and the employees feel like they're the most, but they're a customer of the company, and they're being listened to and providing that great input and feedback, and they're being listened to.
Yeah, so it's more of opening a two-way dialogue instead of just going one way.
We call that conversation strategy, where I give the analogy, if you're married to somebody and you're continually just asking them, giving you feedback, but you're not establishing a dialogue, that conversation won't go on very long. So our customers and employees are really the same. They want to have that dialogue and the engagement and that kind of back and forth. That's what a relationship's all about. So we really find that conversation strategy, both with employees and with customers, letting them know you heard them, what you're doing about it, and continually asking for additional feedback is really a great way to build that relationship.
Would you define what customer conversational intelligence is and how you measure it?
Yeah, I think conversational intelligence is about the quality of those conversations. So a lot of times people will say, well, we have X number of calls coming in at the call center. My first question is, well, are those really positive and negative calls? And if you're measuring things like a customer called in and got first-time resolution, do you really know that the customer had a good experience, that they hung up the phone and they were happy about the resolution? Because you can certainly get to a resolution on a call and get the issue solved, but it doesn't necessarily mean the customer's happy about it. So we really talk about that being a way for us to understand and dig deeper into what that experience is like that goes along with what the tactical functional activity that's happening out there. So that's really conversation strategy and intelligence. It's knowing not just every single conversation, what goes on, but how you kind of helicopter up and take a look at the themes and what's being said and how customers are leaving the interaction, and then using that information. So that intelligence is only as good as, information is available to everybody, but the intelligence is when you add wisdom to it and are able to look at it and generate insights and go back and act on that to make sure things are changing, that you're always kind of driving to that better experience. So intelligence is using the data you have.
If you could offer one piece of advice, what would it be to creating a great culture within a call center?
I think it's really giving people new ideas and things to think about, new ways of, new skills, new competencies. And I don't mean things like, how to work the system better or figure out new functionality. It's things like teaching people active listening, teaching them things that they can use not only in their work life but their daily life. We teach a lot of root cause analysis. We have a lot of design techniques that we teach even the front line, because they're the ones who are saying, here's a current experience and I want to improve that. That takes a design thought, human-centered design. So we really find that a lot of times the ability for them to think about things differently from a customer's perspective is one of the things that is a key driver to really getting people to be what we call customer-centric. I don't think you can actually ever change your culture. I think you can leverage it and certainly make it better, but unless you're like a Zappos who's come in from day one and kind of set that, it's very difficult to change. But we call it kind of one brain light bulb at a time, and getting people to really kind of think differently about their job, about the customer, about the company, and the value and how they thread to the results that they get or that they provide. So I think it's a lot about that education and engagement of the team and really tapping into their potential and giving them a purpose in what they're doing and how they tie to the success of the organization.